Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Hit Chat Chit Chat. I'm your host, Connor Reynolds. Today, we have an amazing interview with a special guest. Really looking forward to getting into it. And without further ado, here we go. And I feel like we've always had our paths just
Mhm.
very close to crossing, but yet never crossing yet. And
Yes.
so just want to learn a little bit more about you. And, I want to get better myself. And then hopefully there will be some viewers out there that want to get better themselves as well. And I think you could add to that.
Most definitely. I appreciate it. Just a quick intro by myself. Um, Graduated from Cherokee Trail High School here in Aurora back in 2014. College, college was quite an adventure. Went to 4 schools in 5 years. Started Garden City, 2014. Redshirted there. Actually started as a PO. Ended up transferring to Western Nebraska. Long story short, wanted to hit. Didn't get the opportunity at Garden City. So felt like needed to take my talent somewhere else. Went to Western for 2 years. Got a scholarship to Nebraska Kearney. Another turn from there. His program got canceled. Literally 1 year into it,
Tough.
and then finished up at Pittsburgh State in Kansas. The Gorillas. Um, After that, was fortunate enough to get drafted by the Rockies in 2019. Ironically, back as a pitcher. So no more hitting, back to as a pitcher. And then again, big circle here, released during COVID of 2020. So I only got a short season in Grand Junction, and then career was over from there. I think that was just baseball telling me that, hey, I think your playing career is up, but now you're ready to coach. That's the way I took it. So, and now I'm coaching. So, got an opportunity to go down to Tarleton State. It's a new D1. They were D2. Now they're transferred to D1, I believe, last year, 2 years ago. They're in the WAC. Got to volunteer assist down there for a fall. Got a call in the winter to come back to Colorado and be the head strength coach at game day baseball down in Parker. So that's where I'm at, and still continuing, still loving it, and still grinding away. So,
Dude, what a whirlwind.
dude, you're telling me it was a full circle. It was big,
What a
all over
whirlwind.
the place.
So
Yes,
for
yes.
anyone listening right here, I missed you at Garden City by about a year.
Yep. I
Um,
think you were the year after. Yep.
I think did you go to Northeastern State when you were at Kearney? Did you travel?
Um, we did not. We did not. I don't believe so, at least.
Okay. And then we missed each other 1 year, when I was at NSU and you were at Pitt State.
Yep. Yep. So we were always like, I feel like 1 year off from each other. Same
Amen.
same areas, but always a year off.
That's
But
crazy.
probably good though, because I think you would have taken me deep.
Oh, dude, no, no, just
I think
any
you actually. I think my sophomore year we played you guys when we came out there for Western. I can't remember what you did, but I remember you guys hit me around a little bit. So
Oh,
that was fun. That was fun
oh,
at Garden.
so okay, you were at
Uh
Western
huh.
then your second year when I was there. So you were there with Brian Kelly and
Yep. Yep.
Matt.
May I
Oh,
assist? Assist?
yes, dude.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
still
sir.
have a photo. I don't know if you remember at all, but me and him got into a collision at first base. There was like a throw
Mm-hmm.
up the line, and I have
Yeah.
a photo of me just clocking him with my elbow and his like hat and shit going flying.
Matt was a dude. Matt was a dude. He was a that's a brick wall you don't want to run into.
Oh,
That's
dude,
for
no,
sure.
I was so lucky in the fact that like he was the one in like the awkward position where I was like
Yes.
had momentum, because otherwise, like, I mean, I still felt it for a while, but it would have been a lot worse, a lot
Yes.
worse.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a very short series. I'm surprised you remember it.
Oh man,
Unfortunately,
it
that
was
was
a
always the tune-up.
it
We
was
go
a
out
good
there.
time.
Coach was like, "Hey fellas, I know we haven't been outside yet. We're going down to Garden City for 4. Let's make the best of it." Uh, and then we were done real quick. So it was a
Hey,
good game for you guys.
shout out Coach Jones. I've
I
had the
know. I love
pleasure
him
of
up there.
chatting with him. Was incorporated a little bit with an organization that his brother runs out of Kansas, and so I've had the
Hmm.
pleasure of chat with him a little bit on the recruiting side, but now on the coaching end, I mean, he's just a pleasure. He's just a great dude.
He's awesome. He's awesome. Probably one of the I think the best baseball hitting minds I think I've ever been around. I think he's the one who really taught me how to hit. To be honest with you, coming out of high school, you think you know how to hit. Everybody thinks they know how to hit, and then when a dude tells you straight, you're not a very good hitter. I think it opens some eyes. So yeah, I owe him a lot for giving me a chance at Western.
Well, that's a phenomenal transition to run into it. So for you, if you're being told that you're not a great hitter, I mean, you have two options. I always like to say you can be either an ostrich where you just stick your head in the sand and hope a problem runs away, or you could face it.
Hmm.
For you, once you were kind of told, hey, you're not the greatest of hitters, what did you take away from that? And what was your plan moving forward to change that?
I think it was one of those where so making the change from Garden City. So just a little rewind. Making the change from Garden City, it was a little scary because obviously I didn't tell Coach Finnegan right away that I was transferring. It was one of those where I had to find a school, had to find somewhere that would give me the opportunity. Luckily, Western did. Went up there on a weekend when we were redshirt and you guys were away. Um, went up there, checked the facilities out, checked out the school, loved it a lot, and then making that change, I was like, I got no choice. You got to go all in or all out, and I had to go all in. So I think the biggest adjustment was my first year was bad. My first year hitting was horrendous. Taking that year off is it's a big difference. And I know people that say Region 9 JUCO baseball is the worst in the country. 80, 85 is 85. So if you're not ready for it, it'll humble you real quick. So
And would bat.
and a wood bat and freezing cold temperatures at all times of the year. So it was a little adjustment, but I think it once I got to my junior year, a lot of the dudes that I looked up to really they left. Obviously, you only have the 2 years there, and so I was like, this is all it. So me and one of my best buddies there, Balker, Brandon Balker. I don't know, he played at Emporia. I'm not sure if you ever ran into him or not. Um,
Probably.
but we kind of took on that captain role in a sense, kind of took it on upon ourselves. Not the hey, look at me, I'm the captain type thing, but hey, we want to be the leaders of this team, and I think we just took that advantage and ran with it. So
That's
that's good.
awesome. Was that kind of your first little bit of introduction into what player development is, and what was your original look at player development as a player, and now being in a coaching role, what is player development to you?
I think it changed a lot. I think that second year is where I really found out that if you don't work, it's not going to be given to you. But also at the same time, knowing that coaches aren't going to give you every single answer. Not that Coach Jones didn't. I think he gave me a really good blueprint, but I think good coaches force you to figure out what kind of player you are. If you're consistently expecting them to hold your hand, I think that's when dudes struggle. I think that's what separates the top tier athletes versus the average high school varsity athlete. Um, so I think once I got done with my playing career, it was like, okay, how can I be a good coach? How can I develop players, but also not baby them through it? Because I think that's been the biggest part is when you see dudes struggle, especially as the young coach, you want to like give them all the answers. You want to, hey, I did this, I did that, and it doesn't click that way. Um, so for me, I think that's the biggest challenge so far. Um, for me, trying to get to player development is each kid's different, right? You can't treat every kid lefty righty, strong weak tall small, like they're not the same players. So I think it's a challenge, but I think that's the fun part of coaching, especially the high school level. They get it, but they're not quite there yet to be at that college level, which I'm sure you see a bunch. So
Oh,
it's awesome. It's
that's
awesome.
that's always the best, and especially once you start allowing and helping them to get it to click. Like once they get it themselves, that
Hmm.
like look that they get right away. Like I know you've seen the look, any instructors listening, that you've seen the
Oh
look, but
yeah.
like that look of like, oh, that's
The
it.
last 4 months, that's what you meant? Like, yes, that's what I meant.
Like
As
golly.
simple as like put your hand, like get your hands to the ball. Like that's what you meant. I mean, it was simple, yes, but like you got it done. There we go.
No,
So.
I love it, and honestly, that's the like the favorite part for me is like getting that look that like we didn't do it for them, but we are
Hmm.
the assisting kind of like I like to think of it almost as like guardrails when you're bowling. Like it's
Hmm.
not gonna guarantee that you throw a strike right down the middle, but like you're not going to fail completely. Like we're
Yes,
helping you guide it in the right direction. Now you might end up
absolutely,
getting a strike,
absolutely.
No,
Yes. No, exactly.
I love it,
What
man.
was your biggest takeaway? What do you think between you as a player and coach? I'm always interested to hear those
Ooh.
differences that kind of click
Yeah,
as a coach.
for me, it was understanding the difference in perspective. As a player, I struggled looking at a lot of different things from different lenses. And so, like, I knew
Hmm.
what I felt, I knew what I've been through, like those things, but it was really difficult for me to almost like translate. Like, when a coach was trying to say something specific, I wasn't necessarily able to step away and look at it from their perspective. Like, why are they saying it this way? I was just hearing like
Hmm.
the literal words that they were saying. Whereas now,
Yeah.
as an instructor, with working with so many different guys, like I'm not working with different coaches and I'm the constant, like I'm the constant as a coach working with, or well, switch that. I'm not,
Yes.
working with different coaches that are working with me. I'm working with different players, and so it's a matter
100%.
of me having to change the perspective of, all right, like if I say it this way with this kid, they'll take it this way. But if I say this with this kid, they'll take it this way. And how do I
Hmm.
make it to where I'm getting the most out of this athlete specifically, rather than just like a whole average of if a
Yes.
couple kids don't get it, like five other did. Well, like I want to figure
Hmm.
out why did those two not get it? What can I do different? And looking at it from that lens, that's been probably the biggest adjustment, like in growing period. I would say individually, along with
Yeah.
me as a coach.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that. I think that's the biggest thing for me too is like you said, taking those three kids that don't understand it. Like everybody can work with a quality high school, college pro athlete, and then want to take credit for it. But can
Yep.
you take credit for the dude that couldn't hit the like blind side of a barn? He couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat, and then 3 years down the road is all like an all American. You know what I mean? Like being able to see those progressions, I think is what makes coaching so fun, so challenging, but so fun at the same time. Like you said, it's awesome.
Big thing for me is and a lot of places are different. I don't like to necessarily always just post like somebody's max. I like to post their progression. So like for a
Hmm.
while I would post like our leaderboard on my social, and I would have a plus minus next to it where it's like, hey, you've improved this much. So I mean, I remember one kid, he just started off really well, and so he initially was at the very top of the board, but then he wasn't progressing. He was staying very stagnant. And whereas,
Hmm.
little Timmy, when he first came in, he sucked, but over the last 3 months, little Timmy's actually gotten really a lot better. So all of a sudden, little
Yes.
Timmy was higher on the leaderboard than player A, and player A is looking around like, but I hit it harder. It's like that's not what this is for, though. Like, I'm glad you
A
do
hundred
that,
percent.
but that's not what training's for.
Exactly.
So for you, with the different hats that you've worn alone as a player and going and playing
Hmm.
at different places at different levels, what role do you have right now for game day with player development?
So it's kind of cool. So I think I have a pretty unique, awesome role. So I get to kind of see both sides of the ball. So I get to obviously see the strength side of things, but I also coach our 17, 18U travel ball team. So our most competitive travel team at game day. Um, I think that benefits me a lot because a lot of strength coaches I feel like don't get to see 100% of the on-field stuff. They sit here, hey, we'll make you stronger, we'll make you faster. Send me some clips if you got it, and I'll take a look at it. Or they come in and, hey, coach, I went 3 for 4 this weekend. Okay, cool. But I think the advantage of being able to see both is awesome. Best example I have right now is I posted it, I think last week. We have a lefty right now. He's senior at Smoky Hill. Came in last fall and he was maybe a buck 50, like small dude, lefty thrower. And then so he was probably 76, 78 tops, maybe. Worked with me all winter, literally. And not that I have the perfect recipe for success, but literally just stayed in, came consistent 3 times a week, basic progression, learned how to move his body the way he needs to. And now he's 80, 82, topping 83, 84. As a little guy, he's 5'10. You know what I mean? Like it just shows you if anybody can do it, like it's him. You know what I mean? Like so imagine being a 6'2 guy with no muscle on your body, throw a little muscle on you, you're throwing 88, 90. But I think it just comes down to that consistency factor. So I think that's the coolest part of seeing both. Um, being able to help dudes kind of reach that next tier of, hey, mechanics can only get you so far. Let's get you a little stronger, a little faster, and let's see what we can work with here.
There's going to always be a cap, whether it's the genetic cap of what your body is able to output, whether it's the
Hmm.
mechanic output or the mechanic, ceiling that you have with what you can do with your mechanics. It's a matter of how do we optimize and make both of those as efficient and working with each other. And how you said it is like, and I'm sure you do an amazing job. Everything that I've followed has been amazing, but like it was the kid being consistent coming in. Like it's
Hmm.
the kid buying in. Like I mean, us as instructors, we can put together the most incredible plan of all time. But if we got a dude that's not buying in, doing it, then we're gonna
Hmm.
get if they're half-assing it, we're gonna get half-ass results, and it doesn't change. But to have an athlete that's willing to buy in that much is huge. But then I think that speaks to you as the instructor that they're willing to buy in. This junior time that's one of the biggest times as a high schooler going through is this junior season, and for him to
Hmm.
go through buy in with you like that. I mean, I think that speaks loudly to the type of instructor that you are and the relationships that you can build over there.
I appreciate that. I think that's the biggest thing too. Is I think at first I was so bought into culture, like, hey, I got to create the biggest, baddest culture. I got to get everybody I can here. Like if you look at our facility, so game day performance is a little different than some of the other Colorado lifting facilities, right? The workout facilities. We're not 100% all in on, not all in, but like capability. I don't know if you've been down to our bubble before, down in Parker. So we run out
Long
of an
time
indoor
ago.
bubble. So it's got the full indoor facilities, so the full infield, 4 batting cages, and then half of it is a weight training facility. So the tough part about us is we don't run the full hours like a regular. I'll use like a push performance, land out performance, like those places. That makes sense. Um, so yes, our athlete numbers are a little bit lower, but at the end of the day, like you said, I'd rather get 20 kids that are bought in, all in, than 100 kids that I see every once in a while. And you just don't know what you're going to get from 'em. I love having that, and like that real close relationship. Like we don't talk about baseball, we don't talk about lifting. Like how was your weekend type stuff, and I think that's where you get the buy-in more than, hey, here's your workout, go do it type thing. Knowing that they care, I think that's the biggest thing too. Knowing that the coach actually cares about your successes.
Uh,
Um, that's the biggest thing.
It's always massive, and you started to allude to it there. The atmosphere and the culture that a place builds. It can be whether you have 5 guys in there or you could have 100 guys. I've seen cultures with 100 guys that no one's wanting to get anything done. I've seen cultures where
Hmm.
there's only 5 dudes and they're getting after it. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes,
so for you,
absolutely.
what does that atmosphere, environment, culture look like? Like how are you looking to create it, and what are you looking to try and create there?
I think it starts with not trying to hone in. Like for us, most of our guys are youth levels, and then we touch some high school guys too. But for the most part, we're working from the 10 to 16-year old range. So I think the biggest buy-in that I've gotten, or the best atmosphere creator, has been putting the 10-year old with the 16-year old, allowing them to see that progression from, hey, this dude did a goblet squat last year. Why am I doing the goblet squat? Or why am I not back squatting? Why am I not bench pressing? Like the little things that the young guys don't get, they see the older guys start to progress through it. And hey, 3 years down the road, maybe I'm going to be where he's at. He's hitting the ball 350. Why can't I hit the ball 350 in 3 years? Instead of trying to separate the younger guys, I think it adds that little extra. I don't know, the challenge of wanting to step up. Like, hey, this big guy's watching me, and I know you used to be the same way. You see an older guy, you're like, I want to be as cool as he is one day. Like, so
Oh yeah.
creating that environment, I think, has been the biggest thing for us. Um, and we're still getting there. We're still continuing to create it. Still getting that buy-in from the older guys. But we're in the step in the right direction for sure.
That's
So
awesome. I love that. And for you, when you're mixing in, and like you said, you got some young guys with older guys and stuff like that. What necessarily does a training session with you look like? Are you guys using generally? I mean, obviously, you're gonna have little things here or there, but like generally as a at a whole, what does a training session look like that you're running?
So each athlete will come in. We work with Train Heroic. They're fantastic with setting up workouts and setting up everything. I like it because you can track everything, right? So before they even come in, first 5 questions are: how'd you sleep? How's your anxiety? How's your stress? Did you eat today? Like little things like that I can see from a smaller perspective that they don't really look at. But things that I can see from beginning of the workout, how they walk in, how's their energy type thing. Um, but once they get in there, they go through their dynamic warm up, everything 5 minutes, and then everything is posted on their Train Heroic. So littler guys, my 10 to 13-year-olds, 10 to 12-year-olds are going through their basic movement patterns. So learn how to squat, learn how to do push-ups, pull-ups, chin-ups, mostly ISO type stuff. Trying to put them in a position where there's literally no chance of getting out of a bad position. Like they're basically forcing you into a position. You got to learn it and you got to stay there. Older guys, I like the older guys because you get a little more creative with them. You can start to take your basic plank. You can add in a row to it. You can add like instability with the Bosu ball, like just little things like that. So I like to think we're individually created for workouts, but not as individual as people think. I think when people think individual, they think of this kid's got 10 different exercises than this guy, then 10 different than this guy. For the most part, everybody does the same basic thing. It's just what progression are you on? Are you on the bottom tier? Or are you on the top tier? Or are you somewhere in the middle? That's kind of how I like to go about the training, and literally just try to make it as simple as possible. Like try not to overflow these kids because they're novice. They're new. They're 10 to 12, 14 years old. They've never done weight before, right? They've seen it on TV, but they've never actually done it. So I think keeping everything as simple as possible is the biggest thing for how we run things at game day, for sure.
I could see that being something where, you get guys coming in and they're doing what they may not feel like is the most, advanced stuff, doing planks here or
Hmm.
there. But once you add
Yes.
just that little Bosu ball variation, once you add in just like these little tiny things that I'm sure originally when you first proposed it to the athlete, they're like, "Ah,
Yes.
okay, like I can do that. All right." And then next thing you know, you're 15 seconds and you're like, "Hey, so like how you doing? How you feeling?" And they're just
Yeah, but like, how
dying.
you
And you're
feeling?
like,
Why are your hips dropping? Why are your hips dropping?
you're
Like,
like, "Yeah, we
not so
thought
easy, huh?
this is easy."
Not so easy,
No.
right? Exactly, exactly.
No,
No, that's the fun part.
I love that. And so when you're going through, how do you incorporate failure into your training sessions? When you're going through, is that something that you allow to kind of be where the athlete just goes through the natural progression and however they fail, they fail? Is it something where you will add in then different challenges, expecting them to fail and stuff like that? Or is failure something that not looking to involve too much of?
It's a good question. I think at first I think I was so afraid of failure as a coach, not me personally, but having these kids fail. Whether it was failing at push-ups, whether it's failing at just like the little things. But I think as I've gotten more, not advanced in it, but more experience in it, I think trying to find new and creative ways to create failure, but also competition. One dude I follow, and we'll talk about later, Challenger Strength, or Jerry DiFilippo. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. If you don't, he's awesome strength coach. I think New Jersey. But a lot of the stuff that he posts, I like to incorporate. So instead of just running a 30-yard sprint, right? He's going to add a tennis ball in there. You got to get it before the second drop. Try to make everything kind of in a game sense without them knowing it's a game, or without creating that competition or the intent. Um, I think that's the biggest thing too. Maybe not so much failure, is how do I create the most intent with my guys without them knowing it, or without me forcing it on them? Because at the end of the day, like you've seen it with, I guarantee, with your guys, do the walk in and they go through the motions, but there's no intent there, right? So without the intent, like you might as well just go home. Let's try again tomorrow, type thing. So I think that's the challenging and the fun part, is how do I incorporate intent without them knowing it, whether it's the young guy, the old guy, and keeping it fresh. I think that's the biggest thing for failure. So I think the young guys, so to go back to your question, I think the young guys, most of their failures, so for examples, are like their ISOs. Like, so sometimes we'll hold a chin up for as long as you possibly can. They'll write it down in their train heroic. They come in the next week. Okay, did you get better? Did you get worse? You got worse. Okay, you failed this week. Does that mean next week you're going to be worse? No, you're probably going to be better. So I think letting them understand that failure is natural. Your body's not going to feel 110% every single day, and trying to at least hone that in so they understand it, not to get discouraged by it. Because I think out of everything, I think the weight room's tough. When you see failure, it's the first place that you want to give up. Right? You see the dude next to you benching 300, you're benching 100, and then it drops on your chest. You can't lift it up, and you're like, "Why am I here?" Right? I don't want to wait a month to get stronger. I want to do it now. So I think allowing them to see that failure, and then the thing I love too is I take a lot of videos. Whether I post it or don't post it, everything's on my phone. So there's a lot of athletes that come in. One, for example, he's been working with me for 2 years now. We started basic goblet squats, heel elevated, and my dude is like freaking shaking all the way down. He's a 100-foot building with heavy winds, and those things are just going side to side. And then yesterday, he's got 155 on his back, bar on the back, and it is a slow tempo, controlled. There's no shakes, there's nothing. Then I showed his video from 2 years ago, and he's like, "There's no way that was me." And I was like, "That was you, dude. Like you failed back then, and look what you are now." So I think that's the cool kind of buy-in or realization, like, okay, this actually worked, type thing. So
I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome, and getting that look on a kid's face when they're like, "Oh, who's that loser shaking like a leaf?" And you're like, "That's you, you silly Willy." Like that's just
yeah,
a couple
right,
years ago,
right,
man. Like those are the best kind of like realizations where they're just like, "Oh wow, like I have come this far. I have done that."
yes,
And I always tell a lot of my guys, anytime that you have success, that is you. You are the one that was successful. Anytime
yes,
that you're failing, that's me. That is me needing to look into, all right, why are we failing? What plans do we need? What do I need to do to better prepare you for the future? So anytime you have
mm-hmm.
success, that's you. Failure, that's on me. And
100%,
those are the
100%.
best times, man. Those really
I was gonna say I saw a video the other day, and I'm sure you've seen it too. Is Ron Washington? I think it was on like MLB Network or something. It was a couple years back, and it was just a video. But he was like, basically, he's like, "I'm the mechanic, you're the car. Like when you're going straight and you're going 100 miles an hour, that's on you. When you're broken down, you need an oil change, whatever. That's on me. I got to fix that type of thing." So I like that mindset behind it. Great, great. Obviously, a good dude to learn from for sure.
are. Oh, dude.
But
Shout out Ron. Love the dude.
go watch that dude for hours.
Easy, easy. Um, and that's another a phenomenal transition. Who are some Twitter people, Instagram pages? Are there any books? Are there podcasts? Like, what are the big accounts that you really like to enjoy and think some of the viewers should get a listen on to?
Yeah, I think so. The biggest thing to start, the biggest dude for me, he's at TCU right now. Zach Dakin. Obviously, I'm sure you've heard of him or seen some of his content. He's got a book called Movement Over Maxes. That was like when I first started. I as a strength coach, I didn't know where to start. I didn't know what I was doing, what to look next for. And so that book is it's literally like my holy grail. Like I could read that book front and back over and over and over and learn something new every single time. It's the most basic book. It's got pictures, so if you if you don't like a lot of words, it's perfect for you. But like, we'll in the most basic terms walk you through every single movement pattern that you possibly ever need, how to train athletes. If you're a coach, strength coach, dad at home, like probably one of the best overall books that I've been able to incorporate every single day into my coaching. And then, like we already talked about earlier, podcast, social media, same thing. Jerry D. Filippo, he is I guarantee you've come across some of his content. If you see it, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've definitely seen this." But strength coach out in New Jersey, and his biggest thing is, I mean, he puts out content all the time. It's looking over NFL teams. How are they training, good or bad? How can we fix this? Why should we not do this? Different progressions, creative stuff. So a lot of the stuff that does, and I hate to say it, but I take a lot of the stuff that he does and try to incorporate into how I coach. Um, so those are the two guys I think. There's some other accounts that I follow. There's a strength coach. Shoot, I'm spacing right now, but he's a football coach out in Florida Atlantic. He's got some really good content too, and I can get that to you later. But awesome stuff there for those two guys for sure.
No, and honestly, I wouldn't even say that as it would be a bad thing if you were like incorporating that guy's stuff. Like, I mean, that's what coaching
Hmm.
is, right? Like, it is just essentially who has the biggest bag of tricks that is able to just pull them out when they're needed. If
Exactly.
you're a one trick pony, like that's awesome. You could work for the guys that need that one trick, but the moment you get a kid walking into the building that operates differently, views things differently, moves differently.
Hmm.
Like you're not going to be able to connect. You're not going to be able to make those adjustments for him. And so you got to be able to take in past stuff that, you've done as a player, you've done as a coach, things that you've seen. I mean, I use a lot of funky stuff, but I watch a lot of jujitsu training or
Hmm.
basketball when guys are working on knees and ankle stability. Like I take in a lot of different guys' stuff, and it's not necessarily all directed towards baseball, but it's all for that one athlete that you may not be used
Yes,
to or this or that, but like you have something for them. And that's what I think being an
100%.
elite coach is.
Yeah, and I think it's incorporating it. It's stealing somebody's stuff, but being able to incorporate it, like having the answers to the test, but also being able to explain it.
Yes.
'Cause obviously you've seen those guys that, hey, I saw this drill on YouTube. Okay, well, what are you supposed to
Oh,
do? Well, you're supposed to just well, hold on, let me go watch the video again. You're like,
yep.
no, I mean,
Dude,
you stole it, but didn't
and
do it.
I've seen dudes in the same facility as me steal my
Yeah.
stuff, not ask me about it, and then I'm
Yes.
watching them try and teach this kid how
The
to
wrong
do
way.
my stuff, and I'm like, "You have no idea what's going on." And I've heard a kid
Yes.
ask a question of, "Well, why does this need to be like this?" And the instructor kind of was like, "Oh, well, we are." I was just like, "Dude, I'll step in if you need a little help." Like,
I was gonna say, I think that's my favorite too, is both strength and baseball coaching, how much things have changed. Um, for example, strength coaches, right? You got to be the biggest, baddest dude, and you gotta make every kid throw up, right? Like that technique don't work anymore. Like, why is baseball? Why do you have to throw up to play baseball? You know what I mean? Why do you have to run 10 gassers? You know what I mean? You're never gonna run that in a game. Um, so I love the old heads that still have that mindset of don't ask why, do it because I said so. Like if a kid's not asking why, I really question their buy into to what I'm
Yes.
telling them. If it's just blank stare, okay, okay. Do you have questions? Nope. All right. Well then, what am I working with you for? You know what I mean? Like I'm not getting better, you're not getting better. So come back to me when you got something to work on. So
Yeah. It's more frustrating, and I feel like it's been installed and or ingrained in a lot of these younger kids' heads to just say yes sir, yes coach, and you don't question, you don't do this, you don't do that, you just follow blindly. And I've run into enough kids where I'm like, well, why didn't you just do this? And like, well, I didn't know I was allowed to.
mhm,
And it's like,
yeah,
what do you mean? Like, well, I didn't ask you if I could. What
yeah.
are we talking about? And I'll go through. I'm like, hey,
You don't need permission, dude.
this is your swing. This is your
Yeah.
career. Like at the end of the day, you could honestly tell me to fuck off. And like you
Yes.
have the full right to do that. Now, every cause has like the reaction to it. So like,
Yes.
be prepared for that. But
You're
like
not gonna like the response, but
but like at the end of the day, and I tell guys, I'm like, hey, like, if you don't like something or you do like something, I need to know why. And if you're not sure why, then let's figure it out. But
mhm,
that communication piece, I feel like that is so necessary in the instruction and the learning, because otherwise it's just essentially like a step by step, picture book or video book.
yes.
And I mean, we all know how kids did grade wise during COVID. So I don't necessarily think
Mhm.
they're the greatest at, just following along. Like there has to be that back
Yes.
and forth, that interaction piece.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Um, I was gonna ask you, so you run out of Ironworks, correct? You have facility. Are you
S-
running out of Ironworks? Is that true?
Just recently moved, actually.
Just moved, okay.
Yes, I'm now
To
working out of
okay.
Fast Performance over out in Denver.
Okay, fast performance, that's what I was gonna ask too, okay.
Yep.
So with most of the guys you work with, you go a wide range of age, or is it mostly high school guys? Is it a little bit of both, or,
Yeah.
who do you work with mostly?
So right now, working. I think I've got like 5 or 6 guys that are on the youth side. For me, youth is fifth to seventh grade. Not really too big into working with below fifth graders.
Yes.
It's just not it. You know what I mean?
It's not
So
daycare, unfortunately. I hate to the parents out
exactly.
there, it's not daycare, I'm sorry.
And for me, there's a reason I don't have kids. That
Yes.
is, there's a reason for it, and it's because I don't
Yes.
like to babysit or be around that. My favorite is being able to hand the kid off after an hour if things
Yes.
aren't going the greatest.
Yeah. It's like babysitting a puppy. You're like, I'll take them. They get older, you can have them back. I don't want
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
them.
So I've got like 5 or 6 guys I'm working there. And then I think about 15-ish high school guys, and then we got a couple of college guys. And then I'll help out. You got a buddy playing independent ball, here or there, a little FaceTime
Yeah.
action for him and stuff like that. And so, I mean, mostly, I personally really enjoy working with guys 8th grade, all the way through, the college level. But then I do have a few youth guys that are in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade that are they get after it, man. And that for me, like
Yeah.
I'll run through a brick wall for you if you're willing to put in the work. I don't care if you're good.
Yes.
I just want you to be willing to work because like I'll work my butt
Mhm.
off, but if you're not willing to work it off, like what am I doing?
Yeah, exactly. So that brings up a good question because obviously every coach has gone through it. You've had those kids where they show up inconsistently, they don't do the work at home. How do you have that conversation with them and the parents about, hey, maybe this ain't the right fit, or maybe it's that simple? Do you just tell them, hey, this isn't the right fit? Maybe try looking somewhere else. How do you go about that
Yeah,
with
so
parents?
for me, I always will go through. I'm a big numbers guy. I don't like for anything to
Hmm.
ever feel like it's personal or anything like that. And so
Hmm.
I'll go through. I'll show them the data. And I've got it to where I've got splits of guys that are coming in, once a week, and then I've got splits of guys that are coming twice a week, and then I got splits of guys that are about like once a month, or like
Yeah.
once every like 3 weeks. And I'll just show them. I almost to the parents, I tell them it's kind of like of an investment portfolio or like a Roth IRA, where the more
Hmm.
you invest early, the bigger of an outcome you're going to get. Where if you're just here and there putting a few things in, I mean, it's like going to the gym. If you go once every month or 2 months, you're not going to get much out of it. But if you're able to go consistently or this or that, these are the kind of numbers that we're looking to possibly get to. And it's
Yeah.
one of those where if they think I'm spewing BS, and the big thing that I've seen is like sometimes there's that disconnect of communication where they'll ask the player, hey, like what's going on? And like, oh, I'm doing great, I'm doing amazing, this or that.
Yeah.
But then in actuality, they're not doing well. They're not getting better. And so
Yeah.
then when I do have that conversation with the parents are almost kind of like surprised, like, oh, wait, I thought he was, doing so much better or this or that. And it's like, well, actually, he's only come in this amount of times where, this is where it's at. So
Yeah.
for me, it's just a lot of blank numbers, or not blank numbers, but like non, personal talking where, this is just data. This has nothing to do with me and a personal vendetta against your kid. This is just what I want to have happen. And I'm a big component. I like if you were failing a class, would you rather the teacher wait till the end of the year to tell you that you're failing, or would you rather them tell you in the middle of the year to tell you that you're
Yeah.
failing? And pretty much every time a kid's like, middle of the year, so that way I can make those adjustments. And that's how I
Yeah.
kind of go about it. Try and make it at least a personal feel. And I like to be able to then also provide a roadmap of like, hey, if you are wanting to buy in, this is what we would look to do. So rather than having it be a guesswork, I want the parent to feel like, everything is, put together on a roadmap. And if they choose to go that route, beautiful. And if they don't, hey, anything that I can do to help, I'm there for still.
Yeah. No, I like that. I like that idea. I think that's the biggest thing, especially with working with those high school, the youth guys, that they haven't quite got that independence yet, and you got to go through the parents. That's the toughest part. So, um, no, it's good to know. It's good to know. I'm probably gonna use some of that stuff. Actually,
Hey,
some of
let's
those.
go, baby.
So I appreciate you.
Oh no, of
Appreciate
course, man. Like I
you.
said, being a younger coach and stuff like that. I mean, I've been doing this for the last like 4 years. I'm 26 right now, so there are younger guys than me now. But when I first started, there was a lot of pushback that I got just because a lot of
Hmm.
parents thought it was mostly just uh, because I had a personal vendetta or this or that or whatever it is. And so that's when I would get those responses, it was like, all right, well, I need to, have all my ducks in a row. I need to have my numbers. I need to make sure that they
Yes.
don't think it's me saying it, that is, almost like the industry, is saying it, like
Yes.
this is what's
Yeah.
expected. And if you're not reaching that, then it's sink or swim at some point.
Definitely. Definitely. Definitely.
Where can the people find you, sir? I'm sure that they've been listening in on this. I've learned a lot. I've loved the conversation, and for anyone else that has
Mhm.
loved the conversation, where can they find more of you?
They so two different ways. Instagram, they can follow Game Day Performance. So I'll run that page. That's just a little look in on how we run things there. And then obviously my personal Instagram ain't nothing special, but Twitter I'll post up every once in a while. I think Instagram's probably my biggest platform. But just Alex Achtermann on Twitter. So just type that in. It's the easiest way. But Game Day Performance probably be the best way to best content to look for.
Oh, beautiful,
So
man. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. You have a great rest of your day. I'm looking forward to being able to chat with you again here soon.
yeah, appreciate you, Connor. Appreciate you,
Appreciate
my man. We'll talk soon.
you.
We'll see you.